So with that, I think, Colleen, you can begin.
Okay, well, thank you all for inviting me to join you again. It's always a pleasure. I don't usually introduce myself on this, so you all know me, right? Oh, but other people might be listening to this, right? So I'm Colleen Relena Renee. I'm a writer and a teacher and a healer. I have done spiritual work for, going on 3 decades now in terms of professionally. Done it always, actually, in my life. But I live in Ellensburg, and I have, I don't know what else to say. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Okay. So I'm really happy that we can gather together not in real life, but via Zoom. And can everybody hear me? Am I loud enough? We can get it? Okay, good. Okay, so today I really wanted to talk about this time period that we're in and the gifts that it has brought us. Before I start into that, I would really like to do a spirit song just to connect us. When I speak, I'm usually connecting with the audience and getting, just sort of intuitive information. And if I do some spirit song, it helps me do that. So is that all right with everyone? Okay. All right. As I do this, you might close your eyes. You can actually join in from where you are. You're muted, so it doesn't matter. And we'll just go from that. So. So the title of our talk today is Isolation, Incubation, and the Evolution of the Human Heart. And isolation, we've all had a lot of experience with that lately. For me, it's been both an incredible gift and has presented a number of challenges. I've been able to work at home, and so that has financially has not been a stress, so that's been lovely. But as a healer, it has been challenging for me because I haven't been able to get out and be physically with people, to touch them, and to do that sort of thing. And that is very challenging for me because when you have a calling and to not be able to use it in the usual ways can be a little heartbreaking. Yes. So one of the things that Spirit has offered me as I wandered through this last couple months is the question, what if? And so as I have been, again, challenged by not being able to be out among people physically, I get questions like, what if this is a time for you to write and publish? Or what if at this time, the most powerful thing that you can do for the world is to do further personal healing so that you can be more fully available at a later date? What if the distractions that we use, like overdoing or over shopping or just the busyness that we can get in the habit of. What if this time of isolation prevents us from doing that and opens this space for us to really go within and to discern what is important for us? When we don't have all that busyness around us, when we don't have all the folks that we're answering to, when we're in a different rhythm to our lives, it opens a whole bunch of questions for us. And so I've really tried to embrace that aspect of this time and to really go within and to discern what it is that I am to be doing in my life at this time. And I don't know about you, can raise your hand or nod your head. Of how many of you have actually been able to touch into some areas of your life that you could actually let go of? Yeah, right? Yeah. And those things that you don't think you can live without, right? Like, the cup of coffee that you go to, your favorite coffee shop and get every day, right? That was a hard one for me. And it wasn't really about just the coffee. It was all those people that I would, get to know you. They say hello, they greet you, and it's a touchstone for the morning for me. So those challenges have been with us. And and I think that those are very good challenges for us, and that we don't often get opportunities unless we get really ill to just kind of set aside and rest. And one of the biggest questions that what if is Spirit asking me fairly frequently, what if the best thing that all of us can do in the world is to stop and to rest? And I'm wondering how many of you have really enjoyed the ability to rest. Yeah, right? And those like, okay, I should be doing this and this and this and this. And then I get this like, oh, wait, I can't. Right? And then there's a little part of me that goes, yay, I can't. Right? I just get to rest. I just get to explore what I want to do in this moment with what I have. So I've been really rather enjoying those aspects of it. And excuse me, I got to just scroll down here so I don't forget things. Oh, I wanted to talk about my friend Melissa. She lives down in the Southwest, and we have been dear friends forever. And we talk fairly frequently. And so I called her, and we were just checking in, how you doing? And I noticed there was this particular joy in her voice that I have not heard in a really long time. And so so how are you doing? What's going on? And she said, I'm loving this time of incubation. And she's an artist, right? And a teacher. So she has been doing this incredible creative work, which is lovely for her. But one of the things that I was really noticing is my own response to the word incubation. Because we've all been talking about being in isolation and how do we deal with that and how do we get through it. And the word isolation for me almost begs the question, when will this be over? Yeah. And not that there aren't gifts in it. And even if you're really enjoying it, there's still that sense of when will this be over? But when she used the word incubation, it changed things for me. Because the question that begged for me is, what will be created from this? And that opened this huge crossroad, actually, of possibilities. There is so much that can happen as a result of us resting, us stopping, us discerning what it is that really matters to us, and how we want to walk in the world and how we want to live in the world. And so I'm loving that incubation. And so I offer that as a gift to you, just considering this as a time of incubation. And isolation, it's not a bad word. I don't want to put that out there, but it leads to different places. So you might play with those two and just see how they work for you in different days. So as I mentioned when we were just checking in earlier, I live alone and I don't have any pets. So for me, one of the challenges has been touch deprivation. Has anybody been dealing with that? touch deprivation. Yeah. Luckily, because of my earth-centered spirituality, I have this real relationship with nature. So I have been, going out and talking to plants and, rubbing them and, doing that sort of thing. Yes. Yesterday, though, I had this really incredible experience that I want to share with you. And it inspired memories of an old song, which I think probably you will recognize. So I took a drive to Highway 10 because I knew the wildflowers were blooming. And, the beauty of just seeing things blooming. And here in Ellensburg, lilacs are blooming, which is beautiful, but I'm really allergic to them. Right? They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, they smell wonderful, but it's a challenge for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go Highway 10 and I am just going to take in all that wonderful wildflower color. It started to rain. And I don't tell everybody this, but particularly in the spring or the summer when it's a rain and it's kind of a warmish rain, my first impulse is always to take off all of my clothes and dance in the rain. Now, I don't often get to do that, and I certainly didn't get to do that on Highway 10. But I did pull off overlooking the river, and I got out of my car. And the rain, and I felt the drops on my skin. And it was like, oh my God, I'm being touched. And then the wind picked up and caressed me. And then later, the sun burst through the clouds and I could feel the warmth of the rain. And so I get back in my car and I'm just dreaming and I'm like, ah. And the song, He Touched Me. Remember that from, Barbara Streisand sang it, right? But it was like, she touched me. She fell down from the clouds and yes, the rain touched me. I felt a certain tingle when she touched me, a sparkle, a glow. And then the wind came and touched me, caressed me softly, yes, oh yes, she touched me. I felt a certain tingle when she touched me, a sparkle, a glow. And the sun burst through, yes, and touched me. He sent his rays of warmth down and he touched me. I felt a certain tingle when he touched me, a sparkle, a glow. They touched me. It wasn't accidental, no, they touched me. They seemed to tell me they knew all through. They touched me. They knew it. I know, and it's real. And the world is alive and shining. I feel such a wonderful drive towards Valentine. It was the sweetest, sweetest moment. And this really acute reminder that we are all beloveds, that I haven't been touched by a human in the last couple months except by my acupuncturist. I've had a couple engagements with dogs. Yay, thank you, dogs. I love the way they lean into you. It's not the same as human touch, right? But dogs aren't the same as cats, and rain is not the same as sun, but it is all touch, and that we have this available to us if we open to the gift of it. Does this make sense? And so I'm encouraging people to go out and explore nature, to be touched by it, and not just in a metaphorical way, but physically. It's a little early for roses, but when the roses are blooming, right? There's something about a rose petal, right? How satiny, silky. Yeah, can you feel it? And even just the memory of it, they're thinking about it, right? I see Susan shaking her head and other people shaking their head. It's like, you can feel it, can't you? Right. So we do have these opportunities for touch outside of our species. And outside of four-leggeds and two-leggeds, there are the trees. And have you ever explored the texture of a tree trunk? It's incredible. And here's what I know, is that when we are, caressing a tree trunk, there is aliveness coming to us from the tree, right? The tree actually engages with us. And nature longs to engage with us. We are beloveds to nature. Nature is beloveds to us. And when we can open to the possibility of being supported and nurtured in really very specific ways, it is life-changing, not only for us, but for the world. I do want to take just a couple moments, though, to talk about ways that we can ourselves offer ourselves touch. And I think that there's, you can always do this, give yourself a hug. I did spent a lot of years as a massage therapist. And so I really know how important and vital touch is. We are a species that require touch. In utero, the skin is actually part of the brain development. And as you used to watch babies, they're always touching things. It's how we process stuff. And we learn other ways of doing that, but we need it. We need it in order to thrive. And so bringing our awareness, just like out in nature, but we can also bring our awareness to how that we actually touch ourselves fairly often. When you wash your hands, right? You can just be kind of about it and it's a task and you're not thinking about it, right? But you can also bring your awareness to it and letting yourself feel the water, feel the sudsy soap, allowing yourself to be in the sensuality of the experience can be very healing and help us thrive in our lives. And also trying different textures of things, scrubs, salt in oil, and then put it on. The salt gives you a little extra. Actually, just going backwards over your own skin with your fingernails. It's a slightly different texture. And what it does is it tends to enliven our sense of touch, so we can take it in more. So I invite you to just play with some of those aspects, particularly when you're feeling that sense of touch deprivation. But maybe even not doing it as a response to a feeling of deprivation or a feeling of loss, but as a practice of engaging, of enlivening ourselves and each other and the world. Has anybody heard of the Heart Math Institute? Yeah, okay, good. So the Heart Math Institute is doing some incredible studies on the connection between ourselves, our energetic fields, and the energetic fields of those around us, but also of plants and animals and planets, and the connection that we all share. And that, to me, is also another way of looking at the beloveds, that we are all beloveds to each other. And that when we can have very clear intention, that intention, and I know that you know all this, I know that I'm speaking to the choir a bit here, but I think it is important to remind us, to remind each other of how important it is that as individuals, we really have a great deal of influence on others around us, on the environment around us, and that it ripples out. One of the ways that they talk about this is they talk about heart coherence. And what I'd like to, heart coherence, it's a way of attuning yourself and in a very clear way that helps us connect more purely and in more loving, compassionate way. And what I'd like to do is take us through a brief exercise that really helps us move into heart coherence. And so what I'd like to do is have you just notice yourself for a moment. And just kind of notice how you're feeling and how things are. How are you in your body? And now I invite you to put your hand over your heart, your right hand over your heart, and just breathe. And you'll notice that your hand rises and falls with the breath as the chest rises and falls. And be aware specifically of your heart and how your heart moves into your hand. And as you continue to breathe, how the heart and hand do this dance with each other. And now I invite you to imagine that the heart itself is inhaling and exhaling. And now as you continue allowing the heart to inhale and exhale, I invite you to recall a very pleasant experience. Something positive and uplifting. And I invite you to notice how you're feeling now. This is a very simple exercise to bring you into heart coherence. And is anyone noticing how the room they're in has shifted? Good. How is that for everybody? Can folks do something so they can share, Susan, if they want?
It was very calming and felt soothing.
Good. Jackson is holding up some beautiful flowers.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's very calming and relaxing, and you can actually feel your heart slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's very comforting, very warm.
Good.
And very joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the ways they talk about that you can bring yourself into more heart coherence is by doing your work in the world. Not working, but doing your work in the world. Whatever your calling is, that automatically brings us into more heart coherence. So yeah, I invite you to use that fairly simple tool. I think pretty easy to remember. Yeah. And if you don't remember, you can watch the video and notice when I put my hand on my heart, that's where it is, right? Okay, good. So we know that the heart can be measured, right? They do with the EKGs and stuff, but it can be measured several feet away. And I think even farther with some. And collectively, right? Oh, actually, I'm going to back up. So we experience this, you know, when you walk into a room and somebody's upset, you can feel it, right? Or you're upset and you walk into the room and it's loving and compassionate, you can feel it. And you can feel an immediate shift happening, yes? This is one of the powers of heart coherence, right? Compassion, by the way, is one of the most powerful ways to move into heart coherence. Just being compassionate. And I think probably you all have an ability to do that, yes? Okay. So individually, we can shift a room. We can shift ourselves, right? Collectively, we have even more power to do this. And I don't know if you know this, but there are like satellites way up, you know, there above us that are constantly collecting data. And one of the data they are able to collect are these impulses, right? And if you want the technical jargon about that, go to the Heart Mouth Institute. They'll tell you all about it. What I think is important is that they can actually measure collective compassion. And they have specifically done this, like when Lady Diana died or when the towers fell. The collective compassion, that heart resonance that we collected together can actually be measured from space. So I like to remind people of this because sometimes we feel disempowered. We can feel disempowered, isolated in our homes, right? What can we do? You know, as a healer, what can I do? It's like, okay, go into heart resonance, right? You don't have to physically be there with people in order to have some effect, to offer them compassion, healing, love. We can do that anytime, any place, any moment. And this time of isolation and incubation really gives us the space to do that. And so I think what I'd like to do is open for questions and see if there are some questions out there. Yeah, Patrick.
Can you hear me? Oh,
I can hear you now, yeah.
okay, all right. I'm assuming that if the joint compassion can be measured from space, they should also be able to measure the fear and the things that are going on in the world today. And I'm wondering if, you know, if there's some way to build the compassion in a way that would, or can they measure the counteractive force of the two?
They are. Actually, the Heart Math Institute is doing some of that work. I don't know that they're specifically focusing on that. Well, actually, I'm going to rephrase that. I don't know how they're specifically focusing on that. But they do talk about, has anyone noticed that the astrology right now is really helpful for what we're going through?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Astrologically, we're being asked to open and reflect and, you know, shift patterns and paradigms, right? And so then we have this incredible gift of the virus that's actually giving us the space and time to do it. The Heart Math Institute suggests that that is not accidental in any way, that there are correlations, and that we are affected by those things, and what we do affects those things as well. Does that make sense? And so I know that they're kind of studying the whole package, and they are also doing studies. I think other people besides the Heart Math Institute. So they have folks who go and they're experienced in this heart coherence, right? And they go to cities and they basically meditate right?
Mhm.
And they have been able to document that crime rate has gone down drastically while they're there and a little bit after. So yes, there have been studies to do this. And I think one of the things that that they have discovered is that this heart coherence and compassion actually travels faster and wider than the fear.
Yeah, these the Earth Day that we had recently, and there was a world peace a meditation last week, I think it was. Those things seem very powerful to me, and perhaps are what we're the lesson that we're supposed to be learning from the fear that we're getting all the time is that we're not supposed to be afraid, that what we're supposed to do is to expand our own feeling of compassion and peace and calmness, so that the world becomes more imbued with that than with the fear that's being thrown at us every day.
Absolutely. A couple weeks after this all started, I was, when this really first started getting difficult, I actually was in North Carolina visiting my mother who was ill. And I was in 6 different airports in a week because I had flights and then coming back. So then when I got back home, I isolated myself for 2 weeks. And then I was just like, I got to get out. And so I thought, I'll just take a drive. And I drove downtown Ellensburg and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so heavy. And I could just feel the fear and angst and, the just, the static. And I was like, whoa, okay. And again, I'm like, okay, healer, you need to do something. Just as I thought that, the Methodist Church, their bells played a song. I don't remember what song it was. It doesn't really matter. But it just dissipated everything. It was just like, yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I've been singing a lot, right? Just go out and sing or drum. But the heart coherence will do it too. Just sitting and honestly laughing. I've encouraged people, like, laugh. I know that we're in this really serious time, but laughter really is good medicine, and it will shift us, and it just, yeah, we need to have, retain those tools. Yeah, Jackson.
Yes, the thought that has been coming to me over and over is that this time is a gift to us all, and it feels to me like it's the hundredth monkey thing that we've been kind of thinking about and waiting for a long time. It's happening right now. Okay. I've just gotten so much input from people that I read and listen to that this is just a glorious time of waking up. It's our chance to really just walk our talk and show up, be creative, and be the love that we know we are. It's just pretty awesome.
It is. I'm glad you mentioned creativity, because how many people do you know are like doing all these creative projects that they've never had time for?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And I am so glad that this happened not in the dead of winter, right?
Yeah.
Because we can get out in our gardens, right, and play. Yeah.
I wanted to say something about connection. And what came to me yesterday evening, and I've been listening to news, and I got to the point of overload and realizing, it's too much information, too constant information. And I realized that where my joy is and where I'm replenished is when I'm out in the yard and I'm gardening and my hands are in the dirt. And what came to me is that there is information in that dirt itself, and in the whole process of things growing and in touching the soil. And there's all these creatures in the soil, and they have stuff to tell us, and then the natural world has stuff to tell us, and we're connected with it, and we don't know we're connected. But when we let that connection really happen and we're really conscious of it, we're replenished and our energy increases. But the constant barrage of electronic information can be really wearing, and that became yesterday. It's like, I want to stay informed. That's good. But then there's a point where I just need to get outside and reconnect. And I'd be walking barefoot in the grass, and my grass has got too long, but it's nice and wet now, just outside a bit ago, walking barefoot. And boy, it really feels good. It just, that's my connection and my joy. And I guess that creativity goes into growing stuff. So anyway, that's just a thought on connection.
Yeah, an important thought. I think most of you know that I work with the fairy realm a fair amount. And one of the things that they are very adamant about is that the need to have those kind of connections, as Marilyn was saying, and to realize that the soil has information for us, the plants have information for us, that us participating in that heals not only our world, but other realms as well. And that those are really important. Yeah. And they can't do it alone. So I don't know if you all know that the elementals, the fairies, they really participate a lot in keeping our planets healthy in what they do. And humans used to participate in that in a fairly equal sort of way. But as we have gotten farther and farther away from nature and ourselves, our part that we used to play just isn't there. So they're asking us, where are the beloveds? Where are you? And as much as we can engage with that, brings incredible joy to all. So where are you? Yeah.
I have a picture I'd like to share. Hold on, see if I can get it on my the thing here right. Hold on just a second. I'll come back. There we go. Ah, no, that's the wrong message. It's not moved. Oh, there it is. Okay. This came from Grunwald Guild. We actually went on a women's retreat once. And I sent a picture of this to Sean so he could see it, because he's the one that talked to us. He's the arborist, talked to us about trees. And she said that I could reprint it off of their newsletter for myself. But look at the roots. He actually talked about the connectivity of trees underneath the ground and how they share information with each other. And I just love this. I just think it's probably one of my most favorite drawings ever. And I don't know, it just kind of re-emphasizes the connectivity of not only nature, but, you know, of us to nature and stuff to me. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that real quick. The other thing my granddaughter and I do, which is really kind of fun, hold on just a second. Yeah, is we go out, and he talked in his lecture about finding faces in trees. And so we go out periodically. I have a nice big maple tree out in the front yard, and we go out and find different faces in the tree. And that's just really, really a lot of fun. We have some witches, and we have some monsters, and then we have some very happy people out there. So at any rate, it's another way, you know, to connect to nature and to make yourself feel better. Yeah.
That picture is the same as the labyrinth that's the Grunwald Institute.
Oh, that's right, it is.
There, I walked that lots of times.
Yes, you're right. That's right. I hadn't remembered that, Marilyn. Thanks.
Yeah, that was special. Thank you.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
Jackson.
That's really cool. Thank you, Leslie. And that's yesterday was Labyrinth Day, and some of you probably got a reminder from my wife Cheryl. We go out into nature, and we go to the different labyrinths that are around here in Yakima. And I've got a picture here. I don't know if it's going to show up, if you can see it or not, but we hike. Too much glare.
Yeah.
But we were hiking. We were up on top of Sela Gap. You know where the S is on Sela Gap? We were sitting way up above that, and that's Sela out there.
Okay.
That we were looking at and showing the river and the golf course and stuff like that. That's what we've been doing, getting out and hiking.
Yeah.
Just a lot of fun.
Yep.
Several years ago, I moved to Ohio. Both of my parents are from Defiance, Ohio, and I had a dream that took me back there, and I moved back there. And I was told that I needed to go back there because there were things I needed, and that my ancestors and my family wanted me there. So I go back there, and my experience was very few of my family members, which was fairly extended, actually responded to me at all. And so one day I was just feeling sorry for myself. I was having a very, very big Eeyore day. And I was down by the river, and I was leaning against a tree, and I was just like, I was almost having the little kid tantrum, right? I'm like, nobody remembers me. What am I doing here? And the tree I'm leaning against said, I remember you.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And the tree showed me this scene, and I remembered it. It was when I was about 6 years old, and it was a family reunion at that park. And my family was all down there picnicking, and I was dancing around this tree, having a grand old time dancing around the tree. And the tree showed me dancing, and my favorite little culotte things and everything. And I lost it. I was just like, oh my God, a tree remembers me. It was a really profound experience. And I often visit that tree because, as your diagram showed, right, trees connect across. You can kind of cross the planet via trees. It's an incredible telephone, right?
Mhm.
And so I can connect, with a tree here in Ellensburg and travel to trees around the world. Try that. See if you can't find a place. Make sure you come back and are grounded, right? You need to return. Okay. Um, but yeah, exploring our relationship to other species is, I think, really important right now. Harmony and understanding, right? We are in the age of Aquarius now, which is delightful. And I like to remind myself that some of this upheaval and chaos is a result of the folks who are really attached to the old paradigm of either or and power over. There's a part of them that knows that that is waning, and they're grasping onto it, right? So sending them a lot of love and compassion so that they can navigate the shift that's happening, whether they want it to or not, can be really helpful, not only for them, but for all of us. Yeah, good. Okay, any other comments or questions?